Welcome to Norse Code, the number one podcast for Minnesota Vikings. I'm your host, James Spagashnik, and I'm here with our, it's the carpool karaoke edition of this episode. And singing Meatloaf's I Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That, is Mr. Useful Human, Arif Hassan. Arif?
Hi.
I was expecting more of a musical
No,
entry there.
absolutely not.
You were rocking out there for a moment, or just enjoyed the song that was playing.
Well, okay, but did you hear me singing? Because I don't think you did.
I feel like it had started, but it was at a very low volume. It was building up.
It's almost as if I don't use my singing voice.
You use your other voice for everything. So I thought
other voice.
Your non-singing voice.
Right, yeah, my normal voice. That's just a normal voice, James.
We just got done with the Vikings-Bears game, so we're in that nice lower register that is reserved mainly for covers of, we just not going to let me move? Is that what oh, there we go.
James is just going to provide a little commentary while he's driving through a crowded parking lot.
Well, we're trying to get out of this, hard to find, surprisingly, parking garage, yes. But, so we just got done with that. Our voices are nice and low. We're ready for our Barry White covers and all of that. But before we start, again, thank you guys so much for listening to Norse Code. We're going to not shill this particular episode because I'm not going to be reading our Patreon people. We will do that next episode. Thank you so much for signing up over on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out, patreon.com/norsecode. For $3.50 a month, you get access to the Discord, bonus episodes, all of that. You can go over to paypal.me/norsecode as well for a one-time donation, or you can go to norsecode.threadless.com for any number of wonderful Norse Code merch. Let's talk about the Bears game, and I think the first thing we need to bring up is the over. Let's bring up the catches that were made by DJ Moore, to the delight of the fellow in front of us, who was losing his mind. It was all about a fantasy game. It was the only stat that mattered to him. And the moment that he got just enough points from DJ Moore, he's like, why would you pass there?
Yeah, right. The whole game, he's like, throw the ball! Why would you run? He's like, 3rd and 1. Why would you run there?
I just need...
Yeah, it was, and he would cheer every, a DJ Moore tackle for loss on a catch, fantastic. That is net positive points. He was a huge Vikings fan, clearly, but he was in it. He was in it for the DJ Moore. And by the fourth quarter, his
that is uncomfortably close here.
His buddies were getting kind of annoyed. Because his buddies were with him on this. They all wanted him to win, apparently. But by the fourth quarter, the guy was like, "Man, just get another catch. I'm so sick of cheering for the effing Bears." It was incredible.
It was the reason why we stuck around. It was so good to see him, and he was high-fiving everybody. He might as well have been kissing the babies after that. It was at
that point in the game, that was the most excitement we could have had.
Yeah. That was where we had that, and trying to figure out why the Bears called a timeout after punting.
Yeah. When I was told that Torrey Taylor was a weapon, I didn't think that they would use him on downs that they needed to advance the ball. But yeah, no, 4th and 15, I understand abstractly why you would punt. Not sure why you would punt in a situation where you're down by so many scores, that also you're still committed to winning, where you call timeouts.
Yeah, if we can talk coaching for just a moment, there were a couple of decisions by the Bears in particular that, there were questionable calls. If we want to start off first with that fantastic going for it attitude, that Dan Campbell-esque attitude of going for it on that first drive and failing.
That was a huge, because I looked up the bot, right, the 4th down bot after that, because that was a huge, unusual decision, and the bot was really adamant that they should have kicked a field goal there, which we don't see often.
Well, no, that wasn't even the one. Yeah, okay, my bad. Yes, that was the one that we were talking about. My bad. Yes.
Yeah. Which is always interesting because a couple of years ago, the bot would go out, and then you'd get, especially crusty columnists, if I'm being honest, be like, does the bot ever recommend kicking the field goal? And it's like, well, it only goes, you only see it because it went viral. It only goes viral when someone made a big mistake not going for it. Like, that doesn't happen. But yeah, the bot does recommend kicking field goals in some situations, and that was one of them. The Vikings didn't convert. Ultimately, did not matter.
Or the Bears didn't.
The Bears didn't convert. Yeah. Ultimately, did not matter. The Bears couldn't, I guess I shouldn't say it didn't matter because at halftime it was like 13-0, and then the Bears drove down and got a touchdown. It felt like it was a one-score game. I mean, it was a one-score game, but it felt like the Vikings were just wholly in control, and then they regained that control pretty shortly after. But it was still, that field goal probably would have made a difference, but at the same time,
Well, the Vikings were in control of this game from the very beginning. And this was from the Justin Jefferson touchdown on. It never really felt close. It felt like the game should have been over long before it was. And it felt like this was a game that the much, much better team won, which is kind of funny to me considering how much trouble this team gave the Vikings just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, and this is also a team that gave the Packers a fair amount of trouble. It took like a blocked kick. The Bears are an unusual kind of bad team where they, on occasion, can almost be good. This was not one of those games. But of note, this is one of the games since the new head coach. I mean, we saw this 49ers game with Thomas Brown as the head coach. And it seems like promoting the guy, I think he was originally running backs coach, promoting the guy from running backs to offensive coordinator coach was a very good idea. Promoting him up from there after 2 weeks at offensive coordinator, that feels maybe hasty.
Mistakes were made.
Yeah. Oh, wow, you discovered like this really exciting offensive coordinator that might actually be able to unlock Caleb Williams, might be able to kind of resolve all these issues, maybe run play action. By the way, the Bears ran play action 9% of plays while the game was still in play. And you just kind of remove him from the ability to focus on this new job he is learning. So, yeah, it doesn't seem like they've got a handle on this.
No, I think that is a very fair assessment of what was going on for the Bears because the defense was able to get pressure, the defense was able to get a strip sack, the defense was able to just make it so they couldn't convert on third or fourth down for the majority of the game.
Yeah, I noticed at one point they were 0 for 7 on third down. Then, of course, as soon as I noticed that, they did convert a third down. They ended up 1 for 9 or something like that, or maybe 1 for 11. So they just did not convert third downs in this game.
No.
And fourth downs. It was pretty bad. And what's interesting is that you take a look at the game end statistics, right? And you see, in yards per play, Caleb Williams outdoes Sam Darnold, right? Where you see just kind of the team level statistics. When you don't look at the third down numbers or the total number of first downs, they were pretty even in total rushing yards. They were even in net rushing average. Obviously there's a difference in passing yards, but it didn't feel like statistically that they were that far apart, but you're watching the game and you think one team is executing, the other one, aside from a couple of runs at the beginning of the game, is not executing. And part of that is because if you get 5 yards on 3rd and 15, you're not doing anyone any favors. But the Vikings were very often on 3rd and 4, and so them getting 5 yards on those plays was a really big positive. And so the context of all these Bears plays that ended up being relatively positive, or ended up looking positive compared to the Vikings, given the context, actually look quite bad. It's a game that the box score is going to do a lot of lying, and the score is not, which is not. I shouldn't say usually, but it's not often the case. But yeah, the Vikings absolutely. Part of it's all these Bears penalties, but the Vikings absolutely took apart the Bears. Even if you take a look at the average offensive yards per play, 4.5 to 4.6. How could one team be substantially better? And it's when one team needed yards, they got them.
Yeah, the Bears couldn't get out of their own way repeatedly, and in one particular drive, they made it down to the 2. Had the touchdown called back, and then found themselves going way, way back.
Yeah, it went backwards 3 times. And I think there was another penalty that was declined because it was just let's get to 4th down.
Yeah, let's just let them kick.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. This was a team that could not get out of its own way. And the Vikings showed why they are going to the playoffs. Good teams don't lose these sorts of games, and they were in control from the very beginning. And we can talk about that just briefly. The Vikings are in the playoffs now. The Lions lost, which didn't have any effect on it, but the fact that the Bears did get knocked out when the Commanders won, enjoy that. But when Green Bay won this weekend, that put Minnesota officially in the playoffs. A formality to be sure, but this is a team that wins these sorts of games. So good. This was a Monday night game with the Bears where nothing really crazy happened.
Yeah, it had all of the elements of kind of like you'd expect to be kind of a topsy-turvy, maybe disappointing, but certainly a crazy game in some respect, and then that didn't happen, which I guess is also kind of quintessentially Vikings, like finally when you expect something to go like off-kilter.
It somehow doesn't?
Yeah, it's just a really unspectacular, boring, kind of efficient game. Like, a good way to think about it, like, Sam Darnold, I think he passed for, like, 5.8 or something. Again, we're in a car. 5.8 yards per attempt. But he ended up above the 50th percentile in EPA per play, and he had a really high success rate. He just got basically the thing he needed to get done pretty often. And that was all they needed him to do. They didn't need a ton of huge explosive plays. Obviously, it would have been nice to see. They just needed completions and first downs. And then on top of that, when you've got somebody like Aaron Jones running like he is, there's just like not much more that you need an offense to do when the defense is performing as well as it is, when the offense is, getting the right yards in the right situations. So it's a good time.
I was not complaining about the lack of dumb plays that were happening. Good that it was finally kind of going this way. I will say that when this was like the day we were. I am in a place I can't be. Am I? Can I go right?
I think you can go right.
Well, except it's a one-way going left.
I think you can go left.
Well, then I can go left. We'll try that and see how that goes.
Well, it'll drop you off on a highway and then you'll know where you need to go.
Well, I'm just trying to spend as little time on the light rail as possible when in a car. I feel like that's just good advice for everyone here, but I guess we'll see. So, while I try not to commit any felonies, let's talk about the Vikings offense. And Justin Jefferson was out there early, often, and making a big deal, making a big difference.
Yeah, the Vikings were able to unlock him a little bit more. The Bears focused on him a little bit less. I mean, he was targeted a ton. I want to say at least 12, 13 times. Didn't come down with all those catches. We saw like a pretty big drop. Actually,
that was that drop was unfortunate.
It was, because that was probably a touchdown.
Yep.
One of the guys next to us was like, for the rest of the game, was like, "All right, Justin, this is how you make up for that drop." And it's like, can you chill? Like he made up for it with the first touchdown. He bought himself the credit. Yep. And then he cashed it with the drop. And then he built up like a solid 70-ish yard game. Like, he was fine. But he had like some like fun moments. No like breakout, spectacular, this is going to go on the highlight reel type moments. Mm-hmm. But he had some fun moments.
A couple of catches that he made that it looked like he shouldn't have.
Right.
A couple of real long stretches. Like, I don't know how you pulled that off, but man, that's woof.
Yeah. So I obviously, we were at the game. We weren't watching on TV, but according to Twitter, after he scored his touchdown, he went up to the camera and said, "We love you, Randy Moss," which is really awesome.
It was the Randy Moss game. You can't lose the Randy Moss game.
Can't lose the Randy Moss game. Jake Reed, Chris Carter were there. They gave like pretty heartfelt messages about.
Went out for the coin toss with the Randy Moss jersey.
Incredible stuff, right? But yeah, it was like it was the whiteout game. It was the Randy Moss game. There's like a lot of like on a national stage. Like there was a lot going on, where it just felt like the Vikings were in a position where they absolutely had to win, like emotionally. Mm-hmm. And
things clicked.
Yeah, like it just feels like in a lot of instances where that's the case, you can kind of count on them to let you down. It's not really that team yet.
No, but this year in particular has made 0 sense in the history of Vikings teams, and I'm enjoying it quite thoroughly. It's like Kevin O'Connell sat in a room and had to watch the 7-part series from Secret Base with his eyes like tied, like taped open, like Malcolm from Clockwork Orange. Be like, all right, so this is the history that you have to defeat.
Yeah, you cannot become more of this.
Yeah.
You are not contributing to the story, you are ending it.
Exactly. You must destroy the polycule. It's fine. This is how this works. And so when you are in that sort of position, great. The Vikings won a great game here, sending them into a position where they are technically tied for the lead for first for the division, except for the Lions have the tiebreaker. But if the Vikings win out, they are in a real good spot to potentially have the entirety of the playoffs until the Super Bowl go through US Bank Stadium, which that would be great.
Right, that'd be awesome.
But I suppose I'm too excited.
No, it's fair. I get it. Vikings went out. They win the NFC North. They are not technically, quote unquote, in complete control of their destiny, but it would take a really significant effort for them to not have the top seed. Now, it is possible for if the Vikings and the Eagles both win out. So we're already, compiling these somewhat unlikely probabilities on top of each other. But in that circumstance, the Vikings are most likely going to get the top seed. But if a bunch of their non-common games go in different ways, it's like the strength of victory tiebreaker, essentially, right? So if, the Commanders win out and the Cowboys win out, the games that don't involve the Eagles or each other, and the Texans lose, and all of that happens, right?
Yeah.
Atlanta loses out, which I guess Atlanta did the Vikings a favor by beating the Raiders. I don't know that anyone really watched that game and thought anyone did anyone a favor, but there you go.
Kirk Cousins can't hand the ball off, apparently.
Yeah, it's what I'm learning. Then it is possible that the Eagles grab the top seed, but that it's a fourth tiebreaker that is a couple of games in the Vikings' favor already, and so essentially the Vikings are in complete control of their destiny. And so if they win out, they get the top seed. They're the only team in the NFC with a bye. I don't love that system, but in this case, obviously, it helps the Vikings really substantially, and then they get home field advantage in the next two games, assuming that they play both of them. So not a bad setup.
You should do me a favor and, using your phone, type in the number that would be the exit that I would take off of this to make it to your place so that we don't say it aloud and I don't accidentally, bring the crazies over to you more than I already have tonight.
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
We'll finish the episode outside of your place. I was expecting the stay in the parking ramp to be much longer.
We did take a circuitous route and cut off the traffic, right? We let the traffic get ahead of us strategically, I should say. That was very smart of us. We also got our steps in.
My son did not enjoy that aspect of it.
Well, it builds character.
Yeah, that's why he's sleeping in the backseat right
certainly now. A lot more character than I think he was planning on building today.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. He was having a blast.
Yeah.
But
he was like, that was such a good game, and it was like, objectively it's not, but I'm glad you had a good time.
Yeah, no, this is good.
Yeah.
Things happen that were supposed to happen.
Oh, speaking of moments involving your son, the CJ Ham chanting at the end.
Yes.
Oh my God, incredible. So James, obviously wearing a CJ Ham jersey.
Yes.
Really wanted that last touchdown to be a CJ Ham touchdown.
And Cam Akers, glad you got it. Should have gone to CJ Ham.
Fantastic, right?
Should have gone to Captain Ham to help strengthen his potential run for, I would say potential run, his actual run for Walter Payton Man of the Year.
Right. And so he starts cheering CJ Ham. Your son starts cheering for a CJ Ham touchdown. He was saying Ham touchdown, and the rest of our section, including the fantasy football guy in front of us, starts chanting for a CJ Ham touchdown. And then it dies down a little bit, and then the guy next to us starts chanting Christmas ham. It was awesome. Again, it didn't happen, but
it was
that's a moment.
That was a fun little thing. So we can talk about the run game was there today. It was mainly to break up to drain the clock, but the run game was there today. It was good to see. Not only Cam Akers was doing well, but I don't know how many yards Aaron Jones had, but he did get a touchdown, and he was moving the ball.
Yeah. I mean, it was nice to see. Obviously, a couple games ago, Jones had, those fumbles ended up getting him like a little bit benched. At the end of the game, he got that touchdown in, felt like a redemption. But then, last game he gets a ton of carries. He does pretty well. This game, he does pretty well. It was like nice. But like that ends up like the coaches continue to show trust in him. They continue to demonstrate like why, they signed him. They give him all those carries at the beginning, and then as soon as the game seems like it is in control, they go to Cam Akers and then eventually Ty Chandler. But no, Jones did pretty well, and what was really nice is that he was able to, one of the issues that Darnold has is that he's very aggressive, right? And so he kind of avoids checkdowns, especially on 3rd and long. In this game, he didn't, and sometimes his checkdowns went to Aaron Jones, and he just kind of like cut off a couple of tackles and gets this first down on like 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, or something like that. I think 3rd and 18 maybe. Really just kind of puts in the performance, right? Like this is what you want from your back. When I noticed, these pocket failures, it was usually Cam Akers back there, not Aaron Jones, and it felt like, again, not getting to watch the broadcast, it felt like the offensive line in pass protection, when we disregard penalties, held up better than I would have reasonably expected. It felt like Darnold had time. I looked up, late in the game, around like 6 minutes left in the game, so probably a 99.9% winning percentage for the Vikings. I looked up what the pressure rate was for Darnold, and I was kind of surprised to find it was about average at 33.5%, something like that. Because it felt like he was getting a lot of time, and it's like, oh, no, of course it's Darnold. He's just holding on to the ball when he gets the time to hold on to the ball, because that's what he does, and that's what the Vikings want him to do. But no, it felt like that the offensive line was holding up in pass protection. Obviously, you had a couple of Cam Robinson penalties. The false starts were pretty bad. Also, Cam Robinson, it felt like when those runs weren't working, Robinson or Blake Brandel would be kind of at issue or at fault there. I don't want to say the offensive line played well, but I want to say that in pass protection they generally held up. Yeah. And so that was pretty nice to see. And when they did run block well, you got Jones, a fair amount of like 8, 9, 10-yard runs. A couple of really great plays called back, unfortunately. But, because the Vikings also had like 10 penalties in this game. So, like, the Bears had like 9 for 90-plus yards. The Vikings had 10 for 56 yards. So their penalties were like less catastrophic. But they also took good plays off the board, which did not happen as often for the Bears. So, like the net penalty outcome might have been pretty similar. But, yeah, it's very clear, like, why Christian Darrisaw is the left tackle of the future. There was, of course, a bit of a scare with Brian O'Neill getting hurt.
Came back in.
Yeah, he came back in. I saw, like, there was a tweet that he is questionable, and as soon as I looked up, he was already back in at right tackle.
Yep.
Seemed like he played the rest of the game because I was complaining that he was still out there when all the backups were in. And, like, look, I know that, like, with the offensive line in particular, it's pretty difficult to just kind of, because you can't rotate them out. You don't have 10 offensive linemen on game day. But, like, I think you can get rid of one of them. The one that matters, right? Brian O'Neill, because Darisaw's not there. So just put David Quasberry. No one cares. Just put David Quasberry in, or Walter Rouse. I don't. He's probably not active. But yeah, that was like relatively solid. Whereas that wasn't really the case for Caleb Williams. Again, the pressure numbers looked pretty similar. When we looked at Williams' pressure numbers, but I felt like the pressures arrived much faster. He was scrambling a lot more. So in comparison, it felt like the Vikings were more successful on offense. Again, it would have been nice if they were more explosive, but they didn't need that. They kind of just took apart the Bears piece by piece. It took a while to really get going, but then the game just got out of hand by the time we got to like 8 minutes left.
Yeah, it was it was nice to have that lack of ridiculousness. Am I in what's the official Minneapolis designation for this place? Is it Kia Owner's Folly? Is that the location that we're parked? Okay, we're gonna go to the mailbag. A couple of mailbag questions here from our Discord, and the first question is from Ingram's unemployed left foot, who asks, "Wow, can you believe that happened?" I can't watch the game, so this is the closest to a relevant question I'm gonna get. Can you believe that just happened?
Yeah, I can't believe Justin Jefferson dropped that sure touchdown.
Yeah, I was so annoyed.
Yeah,
that was unfortunate. Let's go to... Nope, that's not Vikings related.
Uh-oh.
That's not Vikings related.
Uh-oh. Oh, yeah, because you curate so that the Viking stuff, so that makes sense.
I'm attempting.
Well, I mean, you generally do, but now you can't because you don't have your tools available to you, i.e. a Google Doc. You're just scrolling up and down Discord.
Exactly. Arifluenza asks, with the whiteout uniforms, is Darnold seeing ghosts?
Oh my god. Yeah, but this time they're friendly ghosts. They're all Caspers. They're all Dave Caspers.
Yeah. Hopeful Vikings pessimist asks, for Arif's objective and analytics corner, where does Darnold really rank in terms of NFL quarterbacks? The discourse around him, and the Vikings' decisions talks about him as if he's a top 5 quarterback that must be re-signed. Look at the numbers. Where does he sit when you remove the emotion from the picture?
All right, so one of the things that I like to take a look at, and this is going to come after... he had like his best game ever.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I like to look at is like adjusted quarterback efficiency. So Kevin Cole over at the Unexpected Point Substack, looks at interception-worthy throws, compares to where those interceptions are on a play-by-play basis, etc. Looks at drops, looks at fumbles, looks at expected yards after the catch, etc. So it looks at all like sacks expected, all of the contextual stuff that helps or hurts a quarterback. So like quarterbacks get credit for defensive pass interference, right? Looks at all of those things together, looks at strength of schedule, looks at weather adjustments, and then tries to kind of take a look at kind of what the net result of that is. I just pulled up the post-week 14 rankings. Let's see if I can find them. And Darnold is 4th. So that's not a bad place to be. Now, I know you can't really like super trust these rankings because Jordan Love is in the top half here, and we know.
Ooh.
Yeah. But generally speaking, you take a look at like EPA per play and adjust it for drops and expected yak and interceptions and stuff like that. And Darnold is playing like really outstanding football. You take a look at it just in terms of like raw EPA per play. So I can just pull up Running Backs Don't Matter. Really excellent website. I was looking at that earlier for the box score stuff.
So you can probably close that maps thing.
Yeah, I'm just like used to having it up.
Well, you're just used to have a million tabs open.
Yeah, it's like the same thing. I've got 89 phone tabs open right now. No reason.
That's
Like
that's the
why-
least
like why?
surprising thing that's happened in this car tonight.
All right, so if we look at EPA per play plus completion percentage over expected, the composite measure that you get over at Running Backs Don't Matter, Sam Darnold is 6th. So there's a lot of statistical tools that really suggest that Darnold is really playing at that high of a level. I don't think that any... It's like the first year that Brock Purdy was doing really well and everyone saw like this really high EPA per play. Everyone was like pretty skeptical of that being kind of realistic. I think we're kind of somewhere in there. Now, when Geno Smith was doing the same thing, people were much more on board buying into Geno Smith, and I think it's because of the nature of how those successes were created. Mm-hmm. A lot of giant explosive plays, a lot of really aggressive play, and we're seeing that from Darnold. But it just, the Geno being bad was so far removed from Geno being good. There were so many years in between. Darnold being bad was like 2 years ago. So it is a little bit harder for people to buy. People really, me included, hold on to their priors and want to wait to see more evidence. And like how long they wait is kind of dependent on what their standard of evidence is, how long ago it was, how strong their priors were, etc. And for a lot of people, for Darnold, it is pretty difficult. But on a pure statistical level, not subtracting credit for the fact that he's got like Justin Jefferson to throw to. Yeah, he's playing like a top 5 quarterback. Now, he's not playing nearly as well as the top 2 quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen.
Big drop-off.
Yeah, it's a huge drop-off. So,
even Goff being like number 3.
Yeah, Goff is, yeah.
There's a huge drop-off after number 3.
So it's like 1 and 2 are like really hot. Then you've got a little bit of, well, not a little bit, an apparent drop-off to Goff. Mm-hmm. And then you've got like these cliffs going to 4, 5, 6. So... yeah, Darnold is playing in the top 5 area, but he's not playing near these like top 3, top 2 guys.
Yeah. And realistically, I mean, if you're looking at salary cap and what he will be able to demand next year, we're paying Jefferson. Like, we're not in a position to be able to pay Darnold what he could get out in the open market.
Yeah. I would be surprised if it was as low as like what Cousins got back in 2018, because just of the nature of the quarterback market and the expanding cap and stuff like that.
A third Cybertruck has hit Costco.
Oh my God.
Well, yeah, he works at Costco, and apparently there was another Cybertruck in the parking lot today. Is a tackle not reporting, negating a touchdown, the ultimate reason to roster a fullback? That was the reason why the touchdown got called back, was because he didn't report. And boy, howdy, the next time he sure as hell reported.
Yeah, there was like a Bronx cheer from the crowd when they announced that Doug Kramer reported as eligible. It was like 4 plays later or something like that. Everyone's like, "Hey, there's my guy."
Between that and his flair for the dramatic, when he was announcing the end of quarters or the
2-minute warning.
The 2-minute warning.
Yeah, well, and the way he did the first quarter was just like ominous, because he's just like, "This is the end." ... of the first quarter. Like, it was just like, oh.
It was the most...
I was having an existential crisis, man.
Yeah, I was like, dude, what do you know? What are you trying to tell us?
Man, I don't want the world to end in the middle of a Vikings-Bears game where no one scored any points yet. Jeez.
This is not how I... No, this isn't what the Gypsy Woman said was going to happen, so... Arifluenza also asks, for a race fan etiquette corner, given that you are a giant man, do you always make sure to get the seats furthest back to prevent blocking their patrons' views? No, we were second row.
Yeah.
We were second row in our section. That's...
Yeah. Part of the fun is blocking other people, and they can't do anything about it, because you're supposed to stand up on third down. That's not my fault.
Those are the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're not doing that, you better have a doctor's note.
Right.
That's all that works. Football's Misandrous Niche asks, for a Reef's Hypocrisy Corner, is Norse Go to Gambling podcast now? And because the answer is yes, what are some good picks for the Thursday Norse Code show? Over under on amount of James editing errors. I am only going to make like one editing error this whole episode, probably, where I forget to take out the part where I was mentioning potentially doxing you.
Oh, good.
So I'm gonna leave that in for fun. I feel like that's in for posterity.
Oh, great.
That's that's
well, and then there's also the time you doxed me by trying to name the neighborhood.
I didn't name the neighborhood. I named the location of the spot that we're in. I was never going to say the name of the street.
Well, if we wanted to be in the spot, we'd have to pull a couple feet forward.
I can do that. Let me just do that here. Just lurch forward just a little bit. And now we're a little further.
Yeah.
A little further. All right, now we're good.
Yeah.
There's like that when you go into it for an oil change.
Right, you're just like right over the pan.
Forward.
Yeah.
Just a little bit forward, little left. All right, we're good. You know, as you and I have established repeatedly, if you are going to be correct, you should be technically correct.
Right. Yeah.
It's the best kind of correct.
Theme of the show.
That is, the few things are more accurate. For a Reef's Cool Corner, are the cool points for just dropping the ball, or for dropping the ball just after crossing the line for a touchdown, worth the idiot points you get by having it roll out of the end zone and becoming a touchback?
So I think this happened 2 times this last week. A defensive player did it, and Jonathan Taylor did it.
Yes.
And someone asked, I think it was asked Nick Benito, who definitely did not do it on his pick six. Does it ever make sense to do that? Or they asked somebody. Mm-hmm. But so obviously it's stupid, right? So nothing I'm gonna say justifies it or suggests it's anything but stupid. It's very stupid, especially if you've done it multiple times. Deshaun Jackson. There's another player that's done it multiple times, kind of recently. But
I swear a Cowboy's done it at least twice.
Right. And a Cowboy originally became famous for it. But
yes.
I'm trying to understand why it happens, and I have to think it's got to be there's so much tension in the game until you get to the end zone, and it's not stress, but tension, and you're just working to get it done, and you're tightened up, and finally you've accomplished your goal, and you can just kind of let go. You did it, but job's not done. You gotta I understand that some people are kind of wired I got it, great, and some people are wired I gotta celebrate. I think there's multiple reasons that people do this. I think one is celebration, I think that's Deshaun Jackson. Mm-hmm. But another one, and I don't know if this was Jonathan Taylor, but another one is just ugh, got it, good, we're good. But job's not done. Right? You do the job, and then, because I love players celebrating. You can't, this is not, I love it, I want players to push the envelope in terms of what will get called for a flag in celebrations, and then I want us to have stupid arguments about how we shouldn't flag those things. Like, I bring back Joe Horn celebration. Like, I am here for props. Like, I love player celebrations. I love taunting. I'm here for it, right? There's probably a limit somewhere we're not close to it. And when we get there, I'll be disgusted and everyone's going to call me a hypocrite, and that's fine.
You're used to it.
Right. But you gotta finish the job before you celebrate. Like,
yes.
You just gotta do it. So, yeah, it is stupid. It's not worth the potential cool points. Also, like, dropping the ball is, like, not that fun. Because, like, the player that they asked, whether it was Nick Bonito or John Franklin Myers or somebody, he was like, oh, yeah, it must not have been Nick Bonito, because he was like, if I ever score. It was a defensive player.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, if I ever score, I'm either collecting every single touchdown I've scored, or I'm punting that ball into the stands. And, like, both of those kind of require that I have it with me.
Yeah.
Which I get, but...
I just want to see him punted at the 1.
Yeah.
That would be beautiful.
There's so many cool, like, celebrations, and what's really fun is that players discovered, like, a loophole. Like, you can't go to the ground during your celebrations, but you can go to the ground on your way to the end zone, and so a lot of players have turned around and started falling backwards into the end zone, and that rules, and I don't think I've ever seen a player do that and drop the ball.
No.
So, yeah, get it, let's go. You do have to be a little bit aware of your surroundings so you can't get tackled from behind when you think you're scot-free, but there's just cooler ways to celebrate than dropping the ball, so it's not even worth that many cool points.
No. Let's go to Skimbleshanks the Railway Cat, who asks, what will Arif do if Carson Wentz Nick Foles' Patrick Mahomes?
That's not gonna come on.
It's in play.
It's not. Well, it sounds like there's no structural damage to Mahomes. He's just sore or something.
It's just time for his late season injury.
Right. And then we're going to laud him for playing on, like, 1 foot in the Super Bowl, and it's going to be great. It's going to be part of his story. And then when somebody finally puts together, like, the career-long look at his performance in the NFL, and we're like, oh, wow, there's, like, a lot of Super Bowls where he fought through an injury, and we all called him a warrior, and at some point you just got to wonder.
Yeah, that. For Arif's paying a Jets quarterback corner, who should get paid by their current team more, Sam Darnold or Geno Smith? Geno. When Geno went out, that game...
Oh, boy, that was rough.
That's a drop-off.
Yeah, I remember, like, a lot of Seahawks fans were like, okay, see, this is what we mean by the offensive line is bad and the sack rate isn't telling the true story, because as soon as you've got someone who is not incredible at avoiding sacks back there, a normal quarterback, or someone who's even worse at that, Sam Howell, it looks like a disastrophe. Like, this is not wonderful.
Tep asks, for Arif's Sacred Geometry Corner, an NFL team hasn't won a Super Bowl after a 15-win season in 45 years. Is it more important to secure the 1 seed by winning out, or avoid the bad number and win a good number of games instead? 14? 13?
Bad number. What if that's a winning percentage stat? And it only applies to particular winning percentages that no longer apply in the 17-game era. For science, we should test this magic.
Room Temp of the Bolshevik movement asks, if you combine the rosters of the Bears, Falcons, and Raiders to play the Vikings, who would win?
Not any of us.
No one.
Jesus.
No one wins this.
Oh, God, because Cousins is at quarterback. You've got, like, a really good receiver core, a really good tight end. It's kind of an offensive line. You could construct one out of
those pieces.
Yeah, it's mostly a Falcons offensive line, if we're being honest, but it's like kind of one.
Yeah, that doesn't help them.
Defensively, they've got... Well, actually, they do get access to a lot of the Bears' defense. Mm-hmm. And then you add A.J. Terrell to it, Jesse Bates. That might be a good game. Now, well, you still got the quarterback. It's bad Cousins, right?
Yeah. Zetapup asks, how many more injuries need to happen before Arif thinks he is Detroit's best chance to open field tackle Aaron Jones?
Look, I have a problem being arrogant. I think we all know that.
I would never put those words in your mouth.
Right, of course. But you would also not disagree with me when I put the words in my mouth. I'm glad
you said it.
But I don't know that my arrogance extends so far as to saying that of all the available non-NFL people to tackle an NFL player, that I am near the top of the list. I think we got to run through, the CFL, the practice squads, the UFL, Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, NAIA, then most varsity high schools.
And right around the time and JUCO. Let's not forget JUCO.
Oh yeah, JUCO for sure. And then we get to the varsity high schools, and I could beat a JVer, I think. Not all of them, but a good chunk.
A select number of them.
Yeah, a good chunk.
This is a good one. Adam West asks, why would Vanilla Ice perform and not do the ninja rap? I had the same question.
Yeah, it was actually the first thing James said after the set. He was like, that was awesome, that was perfect. It was only 2 songs. Wait, hold on.
How do you forget ninja rap?
Well, it was so appropriate to start with Play That Funky Music, White Boy.
Yep.
And then now you only have 2 songs, and you've only got 1 song left. You have to play Ice Ice Baby.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to. So that's why, because the thing about Vanilla Ice is that he knows.
Oh, he is very self-aware.
Yeah, like he knows. And like he knows why the Vikings asked him for the all-white game.
Yes.
Right? Like it's very like it feels like a lot of people didn't get that joke when the Vikings announced it. And I was really surprised by my mentions when I was like, "Oh god."
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't seem to get like getting the whitest white rapper for the white game.
I mean, the only thing they could have done would have been to get Snow, who did Informer.
Oh,
that was the only.
Wow.
Dusty would have lost. Dusty would have flown for it.
Yes.
Dusty would have been here for the show.
So
in quotations.
So yeah, like you only have 2. You have to start with the one that like signals to the audience that he's pretty self-aware of why he's there, and then you've only got the 1 after that. So unfortunate. Maybe they should have extended halftime.
If anything, deserve that. We were just laughing because that was technically my son's first concert. It was Vanilla Ice. It's right up there with my younger brother's first concert being Creed.
Wait.
When he went with my mom. Yeah.
All right.
That's a thing. Let's go to Drunken Vike, who asks, why does O'Connell hate running the football so much?
Because it's boring. Dude, sling the rock. You got Justin.
I leaned over to Arif at one point and went, I am too Zimmer-pilled. I keep expecting a run, and that's not what they're doing anymore.
Yeah.
That is...
Dude, they were like running in the kill the clock drive, like, or passing in the kill the clock drive.
They were passing in the kill the clock mode.
There was like a first down where they just like threw the ball, and you're like, all right. This is just who they are. Fine. Whatever.
Sure. Why not? Ben asks, with the Vikings required to start at least 1 new former Packer each year, who should they look to sign next offseason when Aaron Rodgers accepts a job doing vaccine research for RFK Jr.?
I need to read that.
I mean, that was the question.
Okay, we already had a vaccine skeptic at quarterback. I don't know, man.
Well, so Aaron Rodgers will be off the market, as he's implying. So, current Packers that would become available this next year. I'm trying to think, and
Alan Lazard, no.
Yeah, this will be the time that Alan Lazard finishes up with us. It'll be good. Michael Rath asks, for Arif's Psycho Killer Kisa corner, did Kevin O'Connell kill the narrative that he can only win 1-score games with back-to-back wins by multiple scores, albeit against 2 bad teams at home?
That is a very specific narrative. Yeah, he psycho killed the narrative.
Yes. That is Sorry, exactly.
Your pronunciation of that was unique and innovative.
You know what? I try. James, I'm doing live, James, I've been doing live events. This is Dr. Tentacles, I guess. I've been doing live audiovisual stuff for a decade. I'm curious what your equipment/signal flow was for the live show. I guess if you're referring to the picture or video I had taken, it was just my phone. But as far as the actual, the live show. I run a Pro Tools rig. We were just running 3 technically, SM58s, and then running them into a little Sapphire board that I was then running out to 2 nice QSC speakers. I thought it was, you were talking about the halftime show, where the sound kept feeding back.
That was crazy.
And I was wincing because the inner sound guy in me is like, I know exactly what to do. Please stop. Please stop. This is destroying me. But as far as the live show is concerned, a quick thank you to everyone over at Union 32. It was great to have the show there. Great to have all the people there. Thank you so much for coming out. That was so much fun. Gifts and everything. That was fantastic. Thank you. A special thank you to Evolve. Like, people drove in for distances to go to that show. That was great. And so
wild.
So thank you so much for that. Let's go to, let's see, I'm sure I have at least one more question that we can do here before you take off. Oh, here we go, Tank B. Tank B asked for James's relationship corner. Should Ingram's unemployed left foot have had his anniversary dinner at Chili's, a restaurant his wife likes, to placate both of his fandoms, the Vikings and his marriage?
Both of his fandoms! Are we litigating like some Discord drama right now?
I missed it. I've been running around Minneapolis with my son all week, or all weekend. So I'm not a good person to ask on that, but maybe.
No,
go to Chili's.
Yeah, okay. Generally speaking, we tend to side on the side of like preserving the marriage.
We try, unless it's Don. Yes.
Unless it's Don. Right? That's why I said generally. I didn't want to like caveat everything out. But like, yeah, there are some circumstances like Don's marriage.
Yes.
Where we think, hey, maybe that one's a lower priority.
Maybe don't.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe don't. Bridge over Teddy Water asks, you can tell 3 players to either stop, collaborate, and listen. Who are you assigning each one to and why?
Oh, Jesus. Probably, man, who has... Well, it depends on what we mean by stop, right? Because, like, stop could be like, Aaron Jones, stop fumbling, right? Or it could just be like, hey, just kind of stop your whole deal. It's not great. I don't know, there's not a ton of Vikings players where we're all just kind of, like, generally upset that they're chilling, right? Because the cornerback's not great, but, like, you know, it's not, like, awful. Defensive line, not awful. Man, I'm trying to, like, who is, like, a super frustrating player on the Vikings right now? Let's go with, because Ed Ingram got benched. Let's go with Blake Randall. That's actually, we've had enough. Stop.
Please.
Collaborate, probably. Also, Blake Randall, actually, you should showcase better teamwork with the rest of the offensive line, because that is a problem. Listen, okay, Blake Randall, I need you to listen in meeting rooms when they decide how you're going to communicate when to get on and off of double teams, how to pick up blitzers, how to assign most dangerous man. Really, it's just like a lot of it is Blake Randall.
Let's go to our final question, which is Maddie from Inverness, Scotland.
Oh.
Boy, this'll be an interesting one. Lads, for a Reef's thick goth girl corner,
what?
I met my buddy for a few pints after his 3rd breakup in 2 years to give him the general, quote, pick me up lad chat of another heartbreak. However, in typical Groundhog Day fashion, there's a dangerous pattern emerging I can't ignore any longer. His type since re-emerging from the COVID lockdown is unemployed, unmotivated, thick goth girls, which, fair play, brother, we all had a My Chemical Romance phase at one point, or at least tried to rattle someone that did. But the breakup...
This is crazy.
But the breakup pattern is always the same. The girl moves in, they don't work. Tell a lie, 2 of them were failed Twitch streamers. He works extra shifts to pay the bills, the resentment grows, and they part ways, kicking him back into a pit of single despair. Initially, putting it down to the damage done by the lockdown, I let the first 2 slide, but at this point, I do feel a TGG intervention is needed. How do I wane my friend off the dark goodness and convince them to date maybe someone with a bit more prospects, a brunette perhaps? Or must I keep being the supportive pal until he finds his Evanescence princess?
Okay. First, I just gotta say that most of the time, when you are asking for dating advice and you're trying to get someone off of the dark goodness, you're saying something racist. And it is shocking that that's not what's happening here. I'm impressed that you've managed to do that, honestly. Second, I think that maybe you're reading kind of the wrong signals here, because it certainly doesn't seem like the goth thing is the problem. It feels like the unemployed thing is the problem, and I don't think that's endemic to a particular aesthetic. Maybe it's probably the best way to put that, because I've seen goths at Starbucks and Hot Topic and in IT, not just NCIS, by the way. I mean, like, actual IT.
Actual IT. Yes.
You know, I bet James sees a ton of them doing the sound work that he does.
Facts.
Right. So I feel like that is not an aesthetic that is necessarily more unemployed. Now, the question is your buddy actually just into e-girls, and you're calling them goth because a lot of e-girls have goth aesthetics and then also are Twitch streamers? Maybe that's it, in which case it's a bit of a problem, especially if they're unsuccessful Twitch streamers, which are 99% of Twitch streamers.
Possibly even more.
Possibly more. I don't have a lot of ground on this particular one for reasons I will not disclose, but
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you don't. Exactly.
Nope.
Let's move on. But I think you're reading the wrong signals here, and actually his aesthetic preferences are fine and not destructive, except that they make him make bad decisions that are unrelated to those aesthetic preferences, and maybe he should find someone willing to work as hard and contribute to the partnership that is a relationship, in very material ways. So that seems to be the thing. I can't knock this guy's taste.
And with that will be the end of this episode of... Wait.
What?
This will be the end of this episode of Norse Code. We would like to thank you so much for listening. Arif, what do you have to plug?
So there's not going to be a ton going on in terms of like post-game analysis, because I have to fly out to Vermont in
a few hours.
7 hours. So that's not happening. You're not getting the story. But hopefully, I actually don't know what Luke Braun's going to do. Hopefully he'll write something that you'll all be able to read over at Wide Left Off Football. But instead, I'm going to be writing something about the Lavender Rights Project, because it is what Seahawks Twitter has, and again, I didn't pick this name. Seahawks Twitter, or at least members of Seahawks Twitter, just call this Arif Week, because it is when the Seahawks and the Vikings play, and it's a whole bit about how I am secretly a Seahawks fan, which I just want to remind you, I'm not.
People actually asked if you stuck out at the Vikings game wearing your green and blue.
No, they didn't. There's no way they asked that.
Someone did, actually.
Oh, my God.
Didn't you call our Discord liars?
I 100% will call the Discord full. The Discord's full of liars.
Ingram's unemployed left foot.
It's certainly a liar. First of all, Ingram is still employed. He's just benched. He's employed.
Yes.
So his name is a lie.
That's just...
All right. You remember that? We were walking back to the parking lot, and just one guy was like, Raiders. And we're like, guy. And I was like, first of all, the Raiders probably lost, because I had to check after he yelled that. I was like, what? But second, guy. There's, out of the 4 teams that play tonight, one of them is successful, and they are all around you right now.
like the Falcons won, but not in our hearts.
Right, yeah, exactly. But I'm going to be raising money for them. I've got a piece put together about that. That should go up tomorrow morning. Last time we raised over $5,000. That was really fantastic. I'm under no illusions that it's always possible to raise that much money, but hopefully, right, we can make a dent. So, Lavender Rights Project, they work to protect queer people in Seattle, particularly facing housing or employment discrimination. And in particular, they've been focusing over the past couple of years on those particular intersections of discrimination and oppression. So, black and indigenous, trans and non-gender conforming people have increased likelihoods of experiencing these kinds of issues, obstacles, problems. So that piece will be going up soon, and that's what I'll be focusing on this week. I'll also be traveling this week, so not a lot else I can do. But again, Luke's probably going to write a piece. If he's not, I have a social security number. I can,
we'll just post that.
Yeah, I'll just post that instead. So we're good.
Excellent. Well, that is going to be it for this episode of Norse Code. Thank you guys so much for listening. And please remember that it's 4th and 12. Really think they're going to run it here, Megan? Megan. And we will see you later this week. Norse Code is the largest and only division of Norse Code, LLC. You can find Norse Code on the Daily Norseman, SB Nation's Vikings blog at dailynorseman.com. You can also find it on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever fine podcasts are aggregated. Our Vikings blogger extraordinaire and generally useful human is Arif Hassan of... and he can be found on Twitter at Arif Hassan NFL. I am your producer and host, and my name is James Pagashnik. You can find me at the show's official Twitter feed at NorseCodeDN or at my personal account at Big Mono. If you'd like to donate a few bucks to the show, you can do so in a couple of different ways. You can go to patreon.com/NorseCode and donate there. For $3.50 a month, you get bonus material and more. You can also go to paypal.me/NorseCode for a one-time donation, or you can go to norsecode.threadless.com and pick up some Norse Code merch. Any questions or comments that cannot fit in a tweet can be sent to norsecodepodcast@gmail.com. On behalf of the Norse Code staff, we thank you so much for listening.
Our formula is this.
All things are possible through the power of Ben DiNucci.